Thank you very much, everyone, for your resilience in continuing to be here. As I said, I think organizations founded through adversity, like the weather, are stronger organizations. We're very happy so many of you have stayed with us, and we're very happy that so many people are here to help us usher in this new organization. It gives me enormous pleasure to introduce Ambassador Dewar. Ambassador Dewar was one of Canada's great premiers and a great collaborator, and great at working across borders, provincial and federal. So it's lovely that you're here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And our co-chairs, Jim Blanchard and Governor Blanchard, Ambassador Blanchard, His Worship Blanchard, Jim Peterson. It's great to be here again. Mayors, governors, and our men and women in uniform in the Coast Guard, the brave men and women that are so very important to our two countries. It's an honor to be here again today with our Consul General from Toronto. I just want to say that 8 states and 2 provinces make up over 100 million people in this region. And when I watch American politics, they're always talking about all of these places, all these states on the U.S. side being part of the swing states that will determine the next president of the United States. In fact, Ohio is ground zero for that discussion. In Canada, you can't win a national government without seats in Ontario and Quebec, which represent a huge number of people. So the environmental cooperation that has existed and thrived in this region, I think, can be joined in terms of economic power and educational innovation power to go with this environmental leadership that has existed in this region. One example of that, of course, on the economic side is our light vehicle standards, which we aligned together that not only reduced greenhouse gases under the leadership of the President and the Prime Minister more than any other action we've taken in North America in the last 40 years, but it also had the added benefit with these aligned standards of selling more cars. And there's an example of how we can work together in an intelligent way economically. I do think this region can have a strong economic voice in the short term and in the long term. We're now in the middle of renegotiating different treaties with Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is an opportunity. Now, I should state my bias. When I was Premier, there was a proposal to have Buy Canada, Buy Manitoba, Buy Winnipeg for bus purchases because we had the largest bus manufacturing company in North America. And it's a great, great political bumper sticker. But if you're selling to every other city in North America and you're competing for tenders, it's a good political bumper sticker and a bad economic policy. Buy Canada or Buy America is popular. And I dealt with the unions to get a waiver because the supply chain is an omelet. You can't unscramble it. And a union leader on either side of the border has actually a legal duty of fair representation. You can't have Buy this, which precludes maybe 1/3 of your members. I actually pointed this out to some of my friends. You have a responsibility to represent members in Ontario and members in Ohio. You can't just represent one country of them. That's against the law, let alone the moral issues that represents. So I think that Ohio's got many proposals on Buy America. It has a surplus of trade with Canada. Ontario, we just heard about an example of Buy Canada, and it's very popular. So I believe that this is an issue we should look at here in this region. 100 million people. Why would Canada have Buy Canada when there's 80 million people in the Great Lakes that are American? And the supply chains go across the border. So I have a bias. I thought I'd jump into the previous panel on that and say that I think it's really, really important to have a modern Trans-Pacific Partnership that is influenced by 100 million people that are represented here at this Great Lakes launch of this Great Lakes Council. I believe also that the people were talking about travel. I think there's over 14 million visits a year between our two countries. Canada has 24 million people, 24 million visits of a country of 35 million people. So we like to travel. We love to travel. Even Tarjay coming north may not change some of the travel patterns that go on between our two wonderful countries. But the future of the world is water. The future of North America is water. And it's an economic future, it's an environmental future, it's an innovation future, and that future is here in the Great Lakes. I think the launch of this council allows us to take what we've already had in terms of cooperation and step it up into coordinated power in the capitals of both Canada and United States. So I'm really, really honored to be here and speak to that great, great concept. Thank you very, very much, and I'll see you in Mackinac Island for the next step forward in this great, great campaign. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and I think that everyone in the room would agree with you about the importance of the water resource and how that is a future environmentally, socially, economically, and across the board. As people know, Ambassador Jacobson was not able to be here. I was in email contact with him while at the airport, and he did his best. He asked me to tell people that he is heartbroken to not be here with people today. But we will be admirably served by Jim Dickmeyer, the U.S. Consul General in Toronto.
Well, as last night, so this morning I'm honored to represent Ambassador Jacobson here. How many people didn't get a message from Ambassador Jacobson last night? Because he was on his email. He was extremely disappointed that he couldn't be here, and in great part, there are a number of people here with whom he has worked closely over the years on many issues. And I think in my talks with him, in my 7 months here, and I've had a number of opportunities to sit down and talk with him, this particular project is very dear to his heart. And the launch of it, that we're doing now, I think is something he would, we know he would dearly, dearly want to be here. But he's going to continue being involved with this, obviously. He is connected with so much of it. And we as a mission in Canada, throughout Canada, pledge ourselves to be dedicated to it. I thought the panel this morning with the political leadership defining and showing how this could move forward, to me gives me great, great optimism about the future of Sigler and potential role it could play. And I think the political leaders that were there and understand how one needs to prepare groundwork for future projects and for encountering difficult times, I think helps very much define how Sigler can move forward in a very, very important way. So again, Ambassador Jacobson does send his great congratulations for this launch, and he's going to be busier later today, and wishes us all well. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak for him.
We will now hear from the co-chairs of the Launch Advisory Committee, and then we'll have the pleasure of hearing from Admiral Parks, who will speak on behalf of so many of the partner organizations and groups and advisors who have supported us over the last year as we've built to this. I will now turn it over to my good friend, Jim Peterson.
Well, I am thrilled to be part of the launch of Sigler. It has such great potential to help us achieve things together that we would be ill-equipped to achieve working alone. And I think yesterday's panel talking about politics being local brought forth the point that Canadians are not going to be listened to in Washington nor Americans in Ottawa unless constituencies that are local are supporting them. There are so many challenges that we face together and of a common nature. One of the biggest challenges, I think, for Sigler is that there are going to be so many groups that are already working in this area that we're going to be regarded as an invasive species. We're going to have to work very carefully to overcome this difficulty, and I think it was well expressed yesterday that we are going to need a very high-level, long-term vision. There are so many things we can do together. The water quality and the levels of the Great Lakes. I, as a Canadian, have always feared that on a moment's notice they could pull the plug on the Great Lakes at Chicago. Climate change was brought forward as a global challenge, but one that affects us intimately here in the Great Lakes region. And there were those who were suggesting that we should not act alone because it is a global issue. There were some who talked yesterday about adaptation rather than mitigation. I put it to you that if we don't, as a new group, take a role of leadership and lead by example, how can we expect the rest of the world to fall into line? I think our success will be measured to the extent that we incorporate in our deliberations labor, NGOs, and First Nations, as well as politicians from all levels. We heard yesterday about the issue of whether there's a greater role for shipping to create greater economies in our region. Of course, the Detroit Bridge, which is really the aorta of Canada-U.S. trade, is absolutely critical and gave me more sleepless nights as a minister than probably any other issue except for softwood lumber. We have heard a lot about what attracts investment. One of the answers that I think was most compelling was not taxes or whatever, or access to resources. It was the quality of life that you can ensure to those you are seeking to entice. So quality of life will be a part of our ongoing deliberations. Manufacturing, we share the same decline and they have the same gaping hole in both of our economies on both sides of the border. One of the possibilities that we might want to consider is what Premier Dewar did in terms of an innovation corridor between Manitoba and Minnesota. And this was part of the deliberations that we undertook and established in the Ontario-Quebec undertakings to create a common economy and a collaborative economy, an innovation corridor dealing with green technology, photonics, and the life sciences. Roy Norton has shown us that advocacy in the other's country can actually have great dividends to pay. And I want to give him credit right now for what he has accomplished in terms of Keystone XL, which is, I think, critical to the economic future of Canada and our region. He has 4 states under his jurisdiction, and all 4 of them have signed on to Keystone XL, and he has pointed out to them and to others that each of these states with their coal are emitting twice as many greenhouse gases as the oil sands. That is good advocacy. Minister Broughton talked about transborder air pollution, and I commend her for her leadership on this issue. Again, this is a challenge for Sigler. Also, making sure that we deal with our integrated economy and our supply chains. Regulatory harmonization and border issues are going to be key. I love the idea of joint branding for purposes of tourism, and David Miller presented an interesting concept of regional procurement rules. Governor Blanchard stressed today the importance of having common information, good information. I believe, therefore, that the first undertaking of Sigler should be to determine once and for all that it was Canada that won the 1812 war. Lastly, let me say this. C'est absolument nécessaire que le Québec soit à la table. Je suis très reconnaissant que les fédéraux et la province d'Ontario s'engagent avec beaucoup d'intérêt. Mais encore, nous n'avons pas de Québec à la table. Et j'aimerais agir à ce qu'on ait l'appui de Québec et l'engagement de la province de Québec. Matthew, I congratulate you on what you and your team have done. We are proud to be part of it. You have huge challenges ahead of you, but I know that if anybody can succeed, it'll be Sigler.
I'd now like to introduce Jim Blanchard.
Yes, Jim Peterson, Canadians wearing British uniforms may have burned the White House, but we stole Gordie Howe and Steve Yzerman, and the Red Wings continually remind you that we are the winners on that front. Thank you very much. Anyway, the war that both sides won. There's a great book called The War That Both Sides Won. It's fabulous. Anyway, look, I think everything that can be said has been said. I trust Matthew and David, you're going to talk about some of the logistics of the new organization. How we've got to develop that we want a board of directors, an advisory board. We've got to develop how we're going to house it, staff it, fund it. Clearly, it won't be successful unless we have the private sector involved, the NGOs involved. As has been said, but I'll repeat it again. We want to build on the existing strengths of different Great Lakes organizations, and I've said it several times, and Lana Pollock is here, our U.S. chair, but the IJC has been working on water issues since 1909. We have the Alliance for Great Lakes here. We've had all these different Great Lakes organizations here. We know we need the Great Lakes governors and their leadership, the mayors. I mean, there's a lot going on here, and we have such, there's a real menu here for the future if you listen to what people have been saying. But I want to thank Ambassador Dewar and Ambassador Jacobson for frankly hatching the idea of seeing the Great Lakes region speak with one overall common voice, not just the different important parts, which you all are part of, but an overall voice, because they were frustrated with that as they served to advocate for our respective countries and the cooperation and the partnerships that we need. So I think that needs to be underscored, that when your two ambassadors say and your admirals say, this, with all the good work going on, we still need to take it to another level. You listen to them. And so I'm delighted to be part of this today. Thrilled that so many of you are here and the talent we have in this room. I just note in passing that I think we can tap the universities, so if they can provide us with research, we can tap their expertise without having to go out and hire a lot of people to do research on where we're at, whether it's dealing with climate change or the lakes or the supply chain management. So we've got a lot we can talk about. Climate change, infrastructure advocacy, labor mobility, you heard that. That's important. A lot of things we can work on. And we have a lot to celebrate. And as I mentioned earlier, if all that happens, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more happening, but if all that happens is we would come together once a year to share information and get to know each other and understand what we're all doing, we're going to be the better for it. So thank you for being part of this. I want to hear you talk at some point about logistics. I know our conference is going to continue because we have a focus. I think we're having a good program coming up, dealing with shared energy resources and strategies, and that I'm looking forward to as well. So thanks again, and thank you especially to our two ambassadors and to the Admiral. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jim and the ambassadors and Matthew for your leadership in this project. I don't feel like I really deserve it to be up here, just like I'm sure none of the other stakeholders feel any special need to be up here myself, so I want to keep this really short and only say that I think that the real problem that we'll face as a region isn't with the lack of talent, isn't with the lack of tools, but is ourselves. If we can think regionally, if we can work together, then we can really compete with other regions. And in the nature of convening, I want to introduce somebody who, in many ways, I feel helped really convene the Institute with MOAT and the other stakeholders here, starting at our conference last year, which beforehand, there's, I know, a meeting in his office between the two ambassadors. Not sure what occurred in that meeting, but I do know that after that, at our conference, the ambassadors charged or suggested this Sigler project. So I am very grateful for everything they've done for the Institute and everything that they've done to help Sigler. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Rear Admiral Michael Parks.
Well, good morning, and it is a privilege and an honor to be here, to be with this group, and to follow this group of speakers is a challenge. But I guess I would have to say that when you have two ambassadors suggesting things, I'm not sure. You know, as a guy who's used to following orders, I usually tell the difference between suggestions and orders. So I want to commend Ambassador Duer and Ambassador Jacobson for their leadership, and obviously our distinguished chairs of Cousley, the governor and the minister, for your work to take on this initiative. And I think one of the things I mentioned yesterday, that one of the benefits of this this council will be to bring together personalities and leaders, the people who will take bold initiatives and take steps and be willing to step out. And I'm excited because I think there's an opportunity to have a shared awareness. We can synchronize those priorities, and we can actually have that kind of seamless operation that we try to do. You know, and I talk about our ambassadors, and I get criticized for that once in a while, but I do think that everything we do in the United States Coast Guard on the Great Lakes is watermarked by Canada. And so, Ambassador Duer, I do consider you our ambassador, and just like you know, the relationship that you have with Ambassador Jacobson, and we feel a kindred spirit to you, and thank you for your leadership on this. I really think that as someone who has spent 35 years in this uniform, and most of that around the water, the Great Lakes I have come to appreciate is really a seasonal, saltless, sensitive, shared system. And in that system, I've come to find out that the governance of the Great Lakes is an incredibly, incredibly challenging undertaking with 2 countries, 8 states, 2 provinces, 86 shoreline counties on our side alone, countless municipalities, and dozens, as has been mentioned, wonderful groups that do incredibly great work. Hopefully the opportunity that will be before us here with this council will be to truly get a good inventory of all the things going on, to bring people together, to bring those leaders, those personalities together that can make a difference, that can take on the issues that have been discussed with such passion. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen. I've been asked in the past, what is the most important leadership trait? and I think that is indeed passion. It is the ability to look at issues and be passionate about them. And I think one of the things that brings us, there's so much more that brings us together than divides us here on the Great Lakes as we continue to look at that. And I think that as we combine our goals of having Great Lakes, that the water that is drinkable, that is fishable, that is navigable, that is usable, that is sustainable, that is a goal that we all share. And I'm committed to that. And I would close by saying we can have two different kinds of emotions here about Sigler. One can be anxiety, which is the fear of future failure. But I would encourage all of us to have anticipation, which is the excitement about future success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rear Admiral Parks. Rear Admiral Parks and so many others have worked very hard and participated over the last year leading up to this event. I will not try and thank everyone, but what I would encourage people to do is look at the Great Lakes the Sigler launch program that people have. We have listed a large number of organizations, all of whom have provided great advice to us as we have moved forward. And Rear Admiral Parks, like many others, participated in many working groups and committees as we have moved forward. I did want to officially thank a number of our people who have worked specifically hard. Laura Dawson, who I would say was a matchmaker for us as we at the Mowat Center were looking to try and kickstart this process in Coosely, and the ambassadors were also talking about this. And so if you have any unmarried children who are looking for partners, Laura was a wonderful matchmaker and has allowed us to come together and connected many of the organizations. My own team at Mowat, so many people, Sunil Johal, Jill Sheary, who has managed this day to day, Reuven, who has also been managing this day to day and exchanged emails with so many of you. I just wanted to thank that team. Governor Blanchard has said that we're going to talk a little bit about logistics. The important thing to note is that this is an organization in the process of formation, and it is an organization that will be as successful and strong as the participants. It will be an organization whose agenda is defined by the agendas of people in this room and others who will be joining us over the years. So this organization, we envision it as one that belongs to the great infrastructure of organizations that have that exist currently that are doing such phenomenal work. But we have, identified, and many people have supported us in this, that there is a missing piece, which is an organization that is focused on the long-term, binational, integrated environmental, social, security, economic agendas. And no organization tries to bring this integrated approach on the long-term sustainability and prosperity of the binational region. And hopefully people here will see that we are trying to mobilize that collective effort, and so that together with all organizations participating and doing your own work and not agreeing with each other all of the time, but having a convening function and a function to focus on the long-term sustainability and the prosperity of the binational region will be value add and will add success to the work of everyone here. I play a thought experiment with myself. I have young children, and I try and imagine if I didn't know what the future holds, and none of us do, where I would pluck them 40 years from now or 50 years from now. And the communities around the Great Lakes region, both on the Canadian side and the American side, are as good a bet as any to be the best places in the world to work and live. So I think personally, as a citizen of this region, it's very important that we engage with its future and think very clearly, consistently about regional interests, which won't always trump municipal interests or national interests or provincial or state or Aboriginal or Native interests, but there is a regional interest that needs a voice. On logistics, we are going to return to the Coosly Conference now. We're going to have a short break and discuss shared energy resources, and then we would invite everyone here to participate at a First Sigler working meeting over lunch. We'll walk over to the law school and we will discuss the formation of early working groups on economic transformation, small and medium-sized enterprise, energy, infrastructure and planning, water levels, and security issues, and maybe others that have emerged over the past 2 days, because there have been so many different issues that people have talked about, said we should be working on. With that, I am very excited and pleased at how many people have continued to engage, and I hope people will continue to engage and define the future of this new organization and make it our own and have it as an organization that speaks for the integrated agenda in the binational region. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to everyone who's participated.